started out in meetings this morning at 7:30, but we do need to try to get this thing rolling. So a little after 2, and I'm going to ask Chairman Anderson if he would open us up in a word of prayer to kind of get our mind in the right spot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful day you've given us, dear Lord, and just, Lord, thank you for the showers of blessings. Dear Heavenly Father, we just ask you to lead, guide, and direct us, everyone in this room, that we may make the right decisions for the great people of the great state of Georgia. Dear Heavenly Father, we just want to ask you to watch over our families, that we're away from them. Dear Heavenly Father, we just also ask you to forgive us of our sins and thank you for wonderful blessings. And again, we always want to pause and thank you for loving us. In your name's sake, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chairman. Want to make a few quick introductions. Caroline Hicks, here to my left, your right, is our Senate budget analyst for this section of the budget. I want to introduce my administrative assistant. Stand up if you don't mind, Orla Fennell. She's doing a great job. And then I've got an outstanding intern in Claire Ivy. So they're joining us today. Okay, for the committee members, we've got you a packet here that's got the amended budget information, and then the back page is the capital projects in the amended budget. Any other instructions for them, Caroline?
No. Do you need a different one? Just grab that one.
And then for the presenters, if you all would, when you present, reference the line number that you're talking about. For example, 49.1 is the Athens and Tifton Veterinary Laboratory. So use those numbers that are in our budget package. That would help us follow along with you. First on the agenda is the Department of Agriculture. Our esteemed Commissioner of Agriculture is here with us today. Are you the one presenting, yes, Commissioner? Yes, sir. Well, come to the witness stand there and or whatever. That's what it says on here is witness.
Well, good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
I've never known you intimidated by anything, Mr. Commissioner.
Hey,
certainly not a microphone.
Yes, sir. Y'all thought that was too funny back there. Hey, Mr. Chairman, some of them forget some of their money passes through my budget. Hey, well, it's good to be here, Mr. Chairman. I think we're having a little issue with the presentation. For some reason, it come through sideways, and we can't get it turned the right way. So I don't think y'all want to look at this at an angle. So I'll just unfortunately, I'll just end up sending y'all our. I guess we'll end up having to send y'all our presentation via email. Because for some reason Adobe Acrobat it come through as a PDF. So I'll show you. It's sideways, as you can tell right there, and we can't figure out how to get it to turn the other way. Apparently, we're gonna have to get y'all some resources, Mr. Chairman, because it won't let us edit it on here. But that's okay. So that is not a reflection of where we are at the Department of Agriculture. Just for clarity. We're not sideways. We're in a good place. But we do appreciate the opportunity just to talk about what's going on and where we're at and what's happening and like I said, I'll get you all this presentation, but I'll show it to you a little sideways anyway, real quick. So, just at the department, we have 22 divisions. We issue over 70 licenses. 81% of our budget comes from state funds. 19% of it comes from federal funds. We have about 23 attached agencies. So those agencies are funds that you appropriate to us, and the majority of that is we divvy that out to those entities, and you'll be hearing from some of those in just a minute. the other folks. We've had a lot going on at the department over the last year. As many of you know, we passed Senate Bill 494 last year, which is the hemp program that many of you helped us with to get across the finish line to level the playing field for hemp in the hemp industry in our state. We've rolled out those 2 sets of rules for that program this past fall, and we have been getting to work. We have done this up front with limited resources, but we've been able to make it work to this point. We have issued about 5,000 licenses, Mr. Chairman. We have about 5,000 in process, which means we're back and forth with them. We're having to touch these applications 3 and 4 times. So to issue the 5,000 licenses that are out there, our team had to touch it about 15,000 times. So that's been a lot. So 5,000 have been approved, 5,000 are in process, and we have about 700 that are still in the queue that we are waiting to get our hands on. But we've been issuing about 1,500 licenses a week for the hemp program so far. Those 5,000 licenses have brought in about $1.4 million in new revenue to the state. After we get all the licenses issued, we think it'll be a little over $3 to $3.5 million in new revenue to the state of Georgia and license fees from the hemp program. So when I talk about our needs in the hemp program, I want you to keep that in mind. I'd appreciate that. So we've been doing a lot on the enforcement side as well. Our team has done. Yes, sir.
Before we leave the licensing thing, sorry, I hope you don't
You're good.
mind. So have y'all got a new system to do all this? Are you able to do it through an existing system, or?
So we've been utilizing, we've built out a new operating system, so to speak, within our current licensing structure. But we definitely are looking at upgrading that, but to make it easier and more efficient on my team and our staff. Because we're going to be renewing these licenses every year. So that is definitely a conversation, a broader conversation, Mr. Chairman, when it comes to licensing. But we've been able to do it with what we have. When it comes to inspections, though, we're doing something new in hemp that we haven't done in other areas. We've done about 150 or so inspections since the first part of November on facilities that are selling hemp across our state. We have found violations, but we have also found people that are abiding by the new law. And in some cases, we have destroyed product on site that does not meet the current status of the law. And our guys have been doing that. Our civilian inspectors and our law enforcement have been both participating in doing that. But part of that is we have built out a new platform for our hemp inspectors that any of our other inspection teams have, and they can utilize an iPad that our IT team has built out this inspection checklist, so to speak, that they can go through there and check what needs to be checked and verify that while they're there. So we're working through those technological advancements that will help us not only in hemp but across the department. We have. But like I said, we've been doing a lot of work and doing a lot with very limited resources, and so I'll speak to that in a minute because there's some funding in the governor's budget to help us in the amended budget, and obviously when we get to the big budget, we'll be talking more about that. Electric vehicle charging stations are still something we continue to work on. Y'all appropriated money to us last year to begin studying and working through that. We've been working with Georgia Tech to build out a prototype. We ordered the equipment we asked you for the money for last May. That equipment didn't come in until December, so that's kind of put us behind the 8 ball a little bit. But we really have been working really hard with our friends at Georgia Tech, and with their assistance and their help, we've been able to do a lot to ensure that we get the charging testing equipment in place as quickly as possible, so we can do the job that y'all have asked us to do as an agency. When it comes to other things, we've been dealing with a lot in relation to emergency response. I'm going to hit on 3 really briefly, really quick. We are still dealing with the yellow-legged hornet. It's still stretching our resources as an agency. We have 27 full-time employees involved in the yellow-legged hornet eradication efforts. At any one time, we have 5 part-time employees, and right now we're in the process of hiring 3 more part-time employees to help us with the yellow-legged hornet. We've deployed about 1,200 traps in the Savannah area. Of those, about half of those traps we have caught hornets in. That gives us an idea of where those hornets are located. Just as a quick reminder, this started in August of 23, first detection on North American soil. They are a predator of the honeybee, and the honeybee is a pollinator that we need for agricultural purposes, and it's our job as a team to address this issue. We've taken out 52 nests so far. And I think the best thing that's come from this so far, Mr. Chairman, is our team has been recognized for its efforts. The National Plant Protection Board, the President's Award, was given to the Plant Protection Division at the Department of Agriculture this past fall. To put that in perspective, for the plant protection world, that is the Heisman Trophy for plant protection. And so I like to tell people that our team won the Heisman Trophy for plant protection, and we're dang proud of it. Matter of fact, it's better than that because they give the Heisman Trophy out every year. They don't give this trophy out every year. So we got something better than the Heisman Trophy at the Department of Agriculture because of our work on the yellow-legged hornet. Continuing on, as many of you know, hurricanes have been definitely an issue that we have been involved in quite significantly as an agency. And again, I apologize for the sideways presentation. We'll make sure this doesn't happen when we're here for FY26. But at the Department of Agriculture, you know, we have a role when it comes to emergency management and emergency response. And it's no secret, $5.5 billion worth of damage from Hurricane Helene. Our team went to work immediately to address this issue and ensure that that we got out the needed resources where they needed to go as quickly as possible, and I think we got it fixed. And so our team went to work quickly. You know, we have a role in the State Operations Center. We man ESF 11, as do many of our partners behind us. We're in that Operations Center together as a team, and so we ensure that the ag sector is taken care of when it comes to that issue, and that's just a limited list of things that we do when it comes to agricultural emergency management. And our team does a phenomenal job. In response to Helene, you know, we helped ensure we got cattle water locations online. That's what that picture is there on the right side of the screen. Those were areas where we were able to get water access to farmers and producers for their livestock. We did that at the department. Obviously, we work on all these other items as well, from grocery stores to convenience stores. And one of the things we did in Hurricane Helene, the first time ever, is we deployed a companion animal task force to help get companion animals, dogs and cats and other pets that people have. We helped them get those relocated during and after the storm, and before, during, and after the storm. So we do a lot when it comes to those issues. I don't have to say this. Y'all know a lot of damage. This particular farm that I went to, y'all seen it yourself, but 100% tree loss in pecans. That farm family, and that was the majority of their income as a farm family. We still have a lot of farm families that are reeling from this all across the state, and it's significant to both agriculture and forestry. And I know our friends at the Forestry Commission have been doing a lot of work, but I know Dean Place is here. I know my forestry friends are here. I can't thank them enough. We would not have been able to do this economic assessment without the help of our friends at the College of Agriculture or at the Georgia Forestry Commission. They're the ones that helped us put these numbers together and give us a full picture of what that looks like. So I really appreciate their work in giving us an understanding of what this means to our state and what we have ahead of us to address the issue that is so critical to allowing our farm families to succeed, which is exactly what we've been working to do. So many of you know, this past fall, we were able to secure $100 million with the work of the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, and the other members of GSFIC, the board. I actually sit on that board as well, and we were able to move $100 million for specifically $75 million for low-interest loans and $25 million for forestry cleanup. With the Forestry Commission has been working on that and working to get that out, and we've been working to get the GDA loans out. To date, we have received, and we shut the applications off, by the way, because we had already surpassed our 75 million. But after doing so, 322 applications were received for 122.3 million in requests. So far to this date, we have approved 112 loan applications for about $42 million. That's on the way out the door right now. But as you can tell, we have a little over 45 million in requests over and above what we have funds for, and that's after we cut off the applications. And so we could probably see a significant amount more. I'm sure y'all remember the Weathered But Strong program. It was a private fundraiser that helped with this too. With the help of Farm Bureau, we raised about $1.8 million in private funds. And I was proud to announce today at the Farm Bureau luncheon that those checks are on the way out this afternoon. They will be delivered to those over 1,000 farm families in our state starting tomorrow. So that'll be some of the first dollars that some of these farm families actually received. The next thing we've been dealing with is high-path avian influenza. It's been a significant issue for us. The first detection in a commercial flock was here in Georgia in Elbert County. For us, we join now over 35 states that have been dealing with this across the country. We stood up our emergency operations center at the department. That's a picture of our EOC on the left of the screen. And our emergency management team went to work. It was we found out about this Thursday evening on the 16th. And within 5 hours, we had boots on the ground. In less than 12 hours, we had the facility completely secured. With our law enforcement, our law enforcement team secured the perimeter. Our operations team was on site. We were able to quarantine all the farms in the 10-kilometer ring in less than 12 hours. In less than 48 hours, with the work of our team and industry partners, we were able to contain the virus. So it was an ongoing issue, and it's a significant issue to our poultry industry. And yesterday we lifted the control area, which means the tests in the 10K and the 20K ring have all come back negative, which is good. And we lifted the suspension on poultry sales as well. This is just a quick example of everybody that was involved, from Elbert County EMA, Hart County Fire, our friends at Georgia Forestry Commission were very helpful. And I can't thank Director Sabo enough for him sharing some resources with us. The Poultry Lab, Poultry Federation, Department of Public Health come out and surveyed the family, and also our operators to ensure that they didn't get sick. But a lot of folks were involved in this response, as well as USDA. And to date, it's cost us $300,000, right? $290,000 has been the cost to the Department of Agriculture for this response. So in 3 weeks, basically $100,000 a week is what it has cost us to respond to this particular event. And so it was significant. What you see on the left is the PPE garb for the purpose of biosecurity protection. We set up a line. You didn't get in and you didn't get out unless you were supposed to be there, number one. And number two, you didn't get out unless you disinfected. Because of the security of this issue, it is significant. So I appreciate the efforts of our team to make that happen and ensure that we were successful in getting this done. So with that real quick overview, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to dive off into the budget and AFY 26. When it comes to the capital projects side, I believe this is 50.1.18. In capital projects. In the governor's budget, there's a little over $37.4 million in funds for the Atlanta State Farmers Market. As you know, last year the General Assembly approved $37.5 million for the Atlanta State Farmers Market. We're in the process of all of that is basically encumbered. We're working through getting those funds out for infrastructure. This will continue down that same path of getting the farmers market infrastructure in place, electrical, water, sewer, security, et cetera, in place. So as we begin the vision for the future of the Atlanta Produce Terminal and our state produce terminal, we can ensure that it's heading in the right direction. Y'all also appropriated $100,000 last year for us to finish and provide a plan. We are finishing up that now, Mr. Chairman, and my hope is to bring y'all over to the department, those that are interested, and sit you down and walk you through the plan that our team has put together for the Atlanta State Farmers Market and what that future investment will look like. So with these investments we've made last year and with your help this year, we're laying the baseline for that future investment for the future of the Atlanta Produce Terminal, our state produce terminal there in Atlanta. When it comes to our budget, also in the governor's budget in consumer protection, you'll see an ad from the governor on line, let me find it, Mr. Chairman. There it is, line 50, yeah, 50 point, it is 50.1, yes sir. Line 50.1, it is the ad for our hemp program to help us with our efforts in that regard. I talked through that just a minute ago and our need for that additional assistance. We would appreciate the committee's help in letting us in approving that request as well, and helping us ensure that we continue to allow our hemp program to be successful. When it comes to asks, those are really the only adds to our budget in FY26, Mr. Chairman. But when it comes to asks, as many of you know, as I said earlier, our Safety 24 program has been successful. The House added an additional $150 million. I guess I should talk about that. It is an add in the budget, Mr. Chairman, but they appropriated an additional $150 million in its own line 500.1, which is at the very end of our budget. They appropriated an additional $150 million for the Safety 24 program, bringing that total to $250 million, with the $100 million from this past fall. My understanding in talking to the House and the chairman, the intent on the 150 was for $75 million of that to go toward the forestry grant program, and for $75 million of that to go toward the low interest loan on the ag side. Obviously, we would support that request, and obviously, we think that is an appropriate ask, and always look forward to additional opportunities to support our farm families, and we'd appreciate y'all's help in that. For as far as the department is concerned and our needs, and we can obviously discuss this in the big budget as well, but we wanted to let you know what these are in case you found some additional leeway in the amended budget, Mr. Chairman. But we do have, y'all helped us last year with some money to help us replace some vehicles, high mileage vehicles across the department. We're asking for the same thing again this year, $2.1 million for 51 vehicles department wide. That helps us with our inspectors and gets them, it helps with employee morale also. And I think it's important for us to do that. And the last request, Mr. Chairman, as I said earlier, HPAI has been significant for us. We have learned a lot, and we've also learned some things that we need. And we can get you that specific list. Our team can send that to y'all, but it's about $450,000, and that would be for foaming equipment, cleaning and disinfecting equipment, emergency equipment related to HPAI response. We'll get you that exact list of all of those items that are listed out, because that's where that 450 number comes from. It will help us be best prepared to respond to that issue if it happens again. We hope it never does, but we want to be as prepared as possible to respond as quickly as possible. And we've been focusing on that as an agency to ensure that we're as prepared as we can be to allow us to protect agriculture every single day. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions that you have. I know I probably talk really fast, but I know there's a lot of people that are coming behind me too. But I appreciate this committee's work in helping us do our job for the #1 industry every single day. But I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do have a question. Senator Gann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, appreciate you being here. Appreciate the presentation. The $290,000 that you spent, which was about 12 miles from my house for the in Elbert County. When I look at that, and I think, okay, things could go berserk at any point. You never know exactly what's going on with that. That $450,000 request, you know, what happens if I mean, you get a couple outbreaks, and how do you respond to that? How do you deal with that? So is my concern. Firstly, because if one farm and here's what you're doing on it takes the kind of money that it does, I got tens of thousands of chicken houses within 50 miles of my house, and I hate to think about what that looks like.
It is definitely critical, Mr. Chairman, and I will say this, at the Department of Agriculture, and this is one of those conversations that I was planning to have, and you've kind of teed it up in our FY26 conversation, was we believe having an emergency fund in our emergency management division would be critical for us to have a fund available for us to tap into when these issues, if and when these issues arise. Because it does put a strain on our budget, as it does any department's budget when it comes to responding to emergencies. And this AI event is no different. That said, depending upon the size of the event, obviously we would be in conversation with GEMA and the governor's office when it comes to those additional state resources if we needed to activate the State Operations Center in response, which would tap into other resources that we could probably also utilize as an agency, but obviously that would be only if we needed to go that route. And then we also have the ability, if needed, to work with our friends on the federal level at USDA and ask them for some additional assistance if it got to that particular point. But we're the front line, and we're going to respond, and we're going to address it as quickly as we can. But having those resources available, Mr. Chairman, is critical for us to be able to do that as quickly as possible without hesitation. So to your point, it is something that is definitely back of mind for me and my team. And that is definitely one of those issues that we're trying to figure out to make sure that we have that resource available if and when we ever had to tap into it, to know that we were able to sustain that for the long term. Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Chairman Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, Commissioner, you and I met down in Savannah with some folks from FSA, and we discussed the size of the loss from Hurricane Helene and also the federal response. And I know you and I talked about it. I kind of came away a little bit like, you know, it's not going to be what I thought it was anyway. Would you just want to speak to that, and also why it's important that we try to keep this $150 million in the budget for the GDA?
So yeah, to your point, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, we have, as many of you know, Congress passed a disaster aid package in December. Unfortunately, we at the Department of Agriculture have not gotten any guidance on when those funds will be released. Some of that is in the form of a block grant back to the state, similar to what they did during Hurricane Michael, but we still have not gotten any guidance from USDA on how much we're getting as a state, nor when those dollars will come, nor do we know when they're going to be dispersing those resources and those dollars that our farm families will be in line for, and our timber producers across the state. None of that has been communicated, and so we're still waiting to get that information. So that said, the critical nature of the Safety 24 low interest loan program and the timber grant that we've been able to do, in most cases, that is the first monies that our farm families have been able to depend on, and our timber producers have been able to depend on and utilize as they're preparing for this crop year. And a lot of our banks and lending institutions are looking at that resource, and they're looking at those dollars that are supposed to be coming as a means to help our farm families ensure that they have the capital they need to do what they do. Well, because it's been so slow on the federal side, our state dollars are really the ones that are kind of standing in the gap right now. So it's critical that we continue to do that to help our folks as much as we can. And so I really appreciate all of y'all's efforts, both through the storm. Many of you were helped in a lot of different ways, and farm families get through this.
All right. Chairman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate the work of the Department of Ag. Refresh my memory. I
Chairman,
appreciate.
pull your mic to
Okay.
you. That's not your mic, I don't think.
11.
Well, it doesn't seem to be working.
Use up.
I think,
We're good. We're good? Thank you, I appreciate it. On 371.20, which is our farmers market enhancements,
Yes,
it's an additional
Yeah.
37.4 million.
That's right.
I fully support that. Remind me of our investments in that project and what your anticipated needs are moving forward.
Yes, sir. So last year, the General Assembly appropriated $37.5 million. That was the largest investment in the farmers market since it was built in the 50s and 60s. And honestly, the investment between that investment and this investment, actually the farmers market was built for less than that back then, right? And so those investments, the investment from last year that we currently have is being invested in infrastructure. So think water, sewer, electrical lines. We're putting in a retention pond for stormwater retention and runoff, addressing a lot of those issues that have been neglected for a long time. And this additional will help us continue to build on that infrastructure investment as well as upgrading our security. As many of y'all know, I've told y'all about the security problems we've had on the Atlanta market. Investments in our security upgrades, as well as our entrance and exits, how we enter the market. We know that is a security issue in and of itself as well. And so all of this will go into that. We have a list, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to, our team, we can get you that list of everything we're spending those resources on. It's a lot more in-depth than what I can go through.
Sure.
Not that I can't go through it here.
No,
I just
no.
don't want to bore the committee
no
with
need to.
everything. But we will get you that list of everything we're spending those dollars on, so you know. But it's basically what I just said. Unfortunately, it's an investment that you probably won't ever see, because we're not investing in necessarily the buildings on the site. That's what this plan that y'all helped us fund with the $100,000 last year that we redid. That's that conversation of what the future of the market looks like going forward.
So we put in roughly 75 million or so over
That's
2
correct.
years, is that about right? What's your anticipation moving forward?
I think moving forward is after we finalize this plan, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and like I said, I would love to have that conversation with y'all to walk through it, and at that point that's the investment of the future of the Atlanta Produce Terminal and what it looks like going forward, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, Mr. Chairman, just to be quite frank, but I want y'all to see that for yourself, so you understand what that looks like and why that's such a significant investment. But it goes back to, agriculture is our number one industry. That's the produce terminal of the southeastern United States. It brings in significant amounts of revenue every single year, and we could do it through revenue bonds also. And that's a conversation we're willing to have at the department, because they are tenants of the state. They do rent that property from us. We're the leaseholder at the Department of Agriculture. We have a landlord-tenant agreement, and so there's a lot of different ways that we could structure this to make it work and work appropriately, but also allow that to be a state-of-the-art facility similar to what our friends in other states have done across the southeast.
Thank you.
yes, sir, Senator.
Just want to make
Shay.
a quick comment. It's not a question, it's really, we have all this natural disaster, but the next disaster that might come up in terms of tariffs, that how that might impact our farmers, because we export our product, poultry to
Yes, sir.
all this. So I hope you're having some conversation about the future, what might come up next. Just your thoughts.
So specifically food security. So agri-terrorism, I think, is kind of what you're going at, if I heard you right. So to your point, Senator, our law enforcement unit constantly is meeting with our state partners as well as our federal partners and discussing issues directly related to threats to agriculture. We are definitely, that's one of those things we want to have a conversation with you about in the big budget moving forward. But our law enforcement division is constantly monitoring those threats. We're constantly meeting with the alphabet agencies on the federal level and on the state level as to what those threats are. I'd be happy to share with you in more detail, not in this particular setting,
Yeah.
about some of those things that we're working on, and the threats that we have already found, and the threats that are out there, because unfortunately there are those actors around the nation, or around the globe, that definitely are willing to utilize agriculture as a means to an end, to intimidate and or threaten the safety and security of not only Georgians but Americans.
Commissioner, thank you very much. You've been
Yes, sir.
awesome.
Thank you, Mr.
Look
Chairman.
forward to further conversations.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all. Good to see you. Thank you very much, and we'll see y'all soon.
Okay. Next on the agenda, the Georgia Agricultural Exposition Authority.
Yes, sir. I deleted it off. It's in the recycle bin. So if you want to delete, that's the other one of mine. Yeah, you can just delete it off too. Try to get it out of your way. Thank you. And then you can just delete them out of the recycle bin when you get a chance.
His mic should be fixed, but we're gonna listen out to see if it is.
Okay.
If not, we'll just have him use mic 12 until we can get it fixed after committee.
What the heck's? Welcome, Director,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
CFO, welcome.
Yes, I'm Stephen Shemp. I have with me Lori Dowd. She's our CFO and Chief Administrative Officer. So if you have financial questions, she's our person. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. It's great to be with you today. We have really no changes to the amended FY25, but I do want to tell you the authority is very, very grateful for the appropriations that were given, and we do have a capital project in there also. I'll note it's 54.1 is our appropriation. And I would like to take a moment just to talk about that appropriation and what it means to the authority. The actual cost to the authority to run youth programs, we've done a study, is about $2.6 million is what the authority invests in the youth livestock programs, youth agricultural projects. So the funding, the appropriation of $900,000, that goes a long way with us. We have a relatively small budget as far as state government's concerned, but that $900,000 makes a big difference in keeping our facility affordable for youth agricultural projects. So that's really what that money goes to. The authority, it's part of our mission to invest that $2.6 million back into youth programs. So we're grateful for the assistance. And if you look on the back side of the presentation that we gave you is the FY26 request that we put in, and it justifies where that $2.6 million is spent, both in hard spend and opportunity cost. Youth events occupy about 61 days of our facility. It's times where we can't rent at a commercial rate during that time. So, but again, that's what we're there for. That's what we want to do. But we're very grateful for the appropriation. We've got a very short. We just want to give you an idea of what we're doing. We are out trying to raise more money so that we don't have to ask for more in the appropriation. So, again, we start off with our mission is to showcase Georgia's agriculture and agribusiness, and we promote agricultural achievements of young people. They're the core of our mission, the young folks. That's why we keep the place so clean. We want to be their Super Bowl when they show up. We want that place to be pristine. We want them to be proud to be there with their projects, to show them off. And we invite as many people as we can in to make sure that those kids are celebrated and people see those projects. We can go to the next slide. Big project that we have right now to be completed in June. We're hoping June. When they say June, I'm hoping by August. Is a brand new Marriott hotel. We look for this hotel to add to our commercial side of our business. Trade shows, et cetera, corporate gatherings, anybody that we can get in to Perry to, again, raise more revenue to support the young people. That's what this effort is for. And we'll go, we've got, I don't have the sheet of the capital project. I don't know what number that is, but it's $22 million with $21,540,000 going to a small species barn and an arena. That investment is directly to the young people. It's also going to help our year-round business. There is no equine event that happens in the United States now that can outgrow the Georgia National Fairgrounds and Agri Center. We are the premier facility, and will be hard for anybody to catch up once this barn is built. It gives us the stalling capacity. There is no horse show that will ever outgrow us, we hope. If it does, we'll come back and ask you for some more money, but we can go to the next one. Our economic impact on the state, just out-of-state spending alone that's generated from the Georgia National Fairgrounds operation is about $88 million a year. Next one. Combined spending in Georgia, out-of-state dollars, we're pushing $133 million economic impact on the state of Georgia. Again, I go back to our mission. It's showcasing agricultural, showcasing young people, and driving the economy of Georgia. The Georgia National Fairgrounds and Agri Center, I'm proud to announce to you, we're checking all the boxes. We're meeting our mission. Revenues, if we look hard at our revenue, the commercial side, it's 7% of our revenue. Again, the hotel, we're hoping to drive that number and increase, I'm hoping, by 50%. We've got several shows calling us because of that hotel that are now wanting to come to Perry, Georgia. Again, we're located right in the center of the state. No better place to have an event. The challenge that we have is 53% of our revenue is generated during the Georgia National Fair. It's a 11-day event. We were affected by the hurricane this year. It hit our folks, the folks that bring their projects and their cattle, and that it just the first half of the fair, it was we were praying for those people, and I can tell you they showed up the second half. So it's tough to have an outdoor event and that be your number one fundraiser throughout the year. So again, we're looking at these other pieces of the pie. How can we grow them? How can we get better? We've got to get more diversified in how we raise our capital. Again, approximately $2.6 million is invested in the youth program. So we're doing our best to raise up that money. We're doing all this, as you all know. The cost of everything is skyrocketing. Our personal services are up 18.4%, and our regular operating expenses are up almost 17%. So we're looking for alternative revenue to come in to offset those costs. We have studied raising prices. Do we raise the ticket to the fair? At what point does raising that price hurt your attendance and actually cost you? We're trying to keep everything affordable for everyday Georgians to come out, enjoy our youth, and enjoy our facilities. So we're constantly studying that, and we'll keep looking at again, more ways to raise revenue. After 35 years, we're still at it. I think you'll find our authority has been very successful in what we're doing. Lori and I are here, and we're willing to answer any questions the committee might have.
Thank you. Y'all do a fantastic job with a pretty limited staff. It's a lean run organization. 60 or so employees. Is that about right?
Well, we bought food service, which was a mistake. So it's pumped up our employees quite a bit, but they're dedicated fully to food service. So we're sitting at about 80 employees right now.
Chairman Anderson.
Thank you for your presentation. Do y'all keep a record of how many young people that y'all touch each year? I can tell you we average during the fair 7,000 entries, and that can be, I would anticipate probably 15,000 youth a year come through there, either displaying a project or are there assisting with a project. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other questions. Tell us what's going on currently at the fair.
We've got the rodeo coming up, which is big. I hope you got your tickets and you need to come down. And the junior livestock show will be happening at the same time on the 20th. And Mr. Chairman, I believe because of the hurricane and other events, you'll be the longest serving champion that we have at the Legislative Livestock Showdown. So, yeah, we did put a little picture in there of the
So the Senate is still the reigning
the Senate is the
champion.
reigning champ, and we were going to try to do it at the livestock show, but I think too many conflicts were happening. So
Well, that's
again,
a fun event, and we look forward to the next one and beating the house again.
to help you raise some money, we would pay if you make the senator ride the bull.
Did
If
you
you
say
can,
sh-
if
shoot
you can
the
get them
bull?
there on the 20th, we can get them on a bull.
Shoot the bull or ride the bull? 'Cause I shoot the bull all the time. All right, thank y'all.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Anybody here for them? Okay, and then Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. I don't know what happened.
While we're getting that up, thank you. We do not have any adds to our amended budget, so, I would like to take the opportunity to just briefly give the committee some updates on what the agency's been doing since the last time I was able to get in front of you. So, Georgia Soil and Water Commission is broken down into 3 departments. One of those being our erosion and sediment control department. So far through January, we've held over 5,000 erosion control courses and certified over 4,300 individuals. So what that means is any individual involved in land disturbance industry, whether it be the folks out on the job site implementing and installing the practices, whether it be the superintendent checking over the job site or the engineer developing the plan, has to have certification. So we've been able to help 4,300 people stay actively involved in their jobs over the past 7 months. We've also
Hey, excuse me. Pull that mic towards you
I'm
because
sorry about that.
I think we're being live streamed. So
okay, I apologize.
we can hear you, but
I understand. Thank you. Hope that's better. We've reviewed over 1,700 erosion and sediment control plans so far through January of this year, with a 2 to 3 week turnaround. We like that turnaround. The state's approval of these plans is a lot of times the last step for these developers and contractors to get actual dirt moved on their projects. So we like that 14 to 20 day turnaround. They enjoy it too. They can get to work and they can start doing the project that they designed. The commission board, along with the overview council, has added 8 new best management products to the Green Book. That allows 8 more products out there for our superintendents, for our contractors to use if they so desire. Gives them more tools in the tool belt across the state. Moving on to our conservation department and our soil and water conservation districts throughout the state. I'd like to highlight the over $100 million over $1 million that they've been working on and implementing throughout the state. First is $240,000 for best management implementation, and I got a picture of that on the next slide. In Northeast Georgia, cross fencing, fencing out streams and adding water sources for our producers. $400,000 for soil and water conservation districts across the state. So there's 40 conservation districts throughout the state. We have found a grant that allows $10,000 for each district to showcase ag BMP implementation in their area. They're picking their regional concerns or district concerns in their area, putting them in a very high profile spot to the idea of being other producers will see them and we'll be able to draw them in to conservation. And then lastly is $500,000 for hog exclusion fence down in southwest Georgia. We recognize the issue that feral hogs cause throughout the state, and know our friends and partners at Department of Ag and DNR and the Association of Conservation Districts have programs to help with that. We were able to find some money that will allow producers to fence out fields different ways. We're kind of a trial basis. So far, we have 11 producers signed up with, I believe, 4 to 5 more going through the application period right now. Hoping to see the progress of that, and I hope, Mr. Chairman, next year on all those that I've mentioned, I can report back the great results that we expect to see. Again, that's just a picture of one of the practices down in the tree line there. There's a creek, so we would have helped that gentleman fence that creek out, protecting that waterway, and then supplied him with an alternative water source there where his cattle can get water on that protected area and also maintain soil health that way. Last department is our watershed dams. So we've had 3 dams move from the environmental planning phase to the design phase, where we have engineers drawing up what the new dam would look like. That is the next phase to rehabbing and restructuring that dam for permits. Since the last time I would have been in front of the committee, we have completed 3 rehabs and maintained 62 dams to stay current with Safe Dams rules and regulations. And just a brief mention, there is some money towards that and the big budget, and I look forward to getting back in front of the committee and discussing that further. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you and the committee's time with that. That's all I have, and turn it over to any questions there might be.
Thank you. What do you generate in permit fees annually? Do you have that figure?
I do not have a figure because we do not generate any fees from those courses. Most of those, I would say 90 to 95% of those are subbed out through third-party contractors. Now they do charge a fee, but the agency itself receives no fees. We make sure the material's up to date to all rules and regs and grade and ship out their certification cards, but there's no fees generated in that.
Do you generate any revenue from licenses or anything like that, or?
Any revenue we would generate would be on the plan review side of things, and there's when the contractor or developer pays the local local issuing authority where the work's being done, $80 per disturbed acre. 40 of that stays there with that municipality. 40 of it comes back into state treasury. We do not, but I guess you could technically say we're generating that by reviewing the plans.
Could you give me that figure for the
absolutely.
last fiscal year,
Yes, sir.
please? For the next time we meet, I don't need it. I mean, you don't even have an ask, so, but when you do have an ask next time, I'd
Absolutely, we'll be happy to provide that for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Anderson has a question.
In your department, do you have any way you could possibly help with Helene?
The way that we could help is we're not staffed with any any employees that would be qualified, or do we nor do we have equipment for any of the cleanup work that's ongoing. The only way that the commission could help would be a pass-through of any federal dollars that might come up that we could in turn put back to either producers, try to make them whole again, or some improvements on their property due to storm damage. And we're following that. I believe there was a conversation earlier about how the feds are handling that situation. They're just none of that's been released yet. Yes, sir.
So I have one last question. Did your agency do conservation easements? Are y'all involved with that, or?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now we have is anybody here from the Georgia Development Authority? So I guess the Ag Commissioner sort of addressed that. Okay. State Forestry Commission, Director Sabo, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Committee. Thank y'all for this opportunity on this lovely day. I know it's a little cool outside, but I will always take the rain. For those that don't know me, my name is Johnny Sabo. I believe I've had time to interact with most of y'all, but those that I haven't, I look forward to getting to know you. Previous to the role as a director, I was a deputy director under Director Loudmore at the time. My background is more in operational type stuff, and that's what's really going to come out today in this presentation, and really the heart of our agency. A lot of people don't know that the Forestry Commission was founded over 100 years ago and specific to wildfire response. And at the heart of our organization, that is our job, is to protect and conserve Georgia's forest resources. And we take that very seriously. Roughly 524 employees, 400 of those are first responders for wildfire response. That is their number one job. Landowner services, prescribed fire, everything else plays a huge role into that. But at the end of the day, their number one job is protection of our forests. Last year really had a banner year for prescribed fire, a little over 1.5 million acres. 155,000 of those done by Georgia Forestry Commission employees on private lands. So just a huge win for us. In the last 30 years, it was one of the highest years we've had. And we also had a little bit of a down year last year for wildfires. I like to bring that up because I heard a representative say not too long ago that Georgia really doesn't have wildfires, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We average 3,000 to 4,000 wildfires a year. We just take our response very seriously, and try to hold them to 5 acres or less is our goal. How we do that is we're divided into 5 regions, and each of those regions has a command structure in place to where they can move resources and really address the needs, at that day and time. They don't have to call Macon or call anybody else to get permission to move resources. Those region managers have full authority to move those resources. And I should have started by, acknowledging a few of the folks with me here. So Michelle Gray, our CFO, and then Chris Butler's our new deputy director. Chris is from Dahlonega area and 27-year veteran with us, and will do an outstanding job leading our daily operations. But this command structure really paid key to our response during Hurricane Helene and everything that we have moving forward. During Helene, as many of y'all know, the response phase was 2 to 3 weeks, and after that, we're probably looking at about a 3 to 4 year recovery. But in that response, Georgia Forestry Commission employees cleared 40,000 miles of roads in 12 days. Just a tremendous effort. To put that in perspective, that's 7 round trips from Savannah to Seattle. And they did that safely and efficiently. Furthermore, our foresters backed off and in 4 to 5 days put in 2,800 plots to do a rapid assessment. and to help get that $1.28 billion figure for our timber loss. So, you know, there was no guesswork. It was statistical. It was thought out. It was thorough, and you know, we have our hands around what happened. Now it's just the work ahead of us. The thing I'm most proud of, though, for our response is just no injuries, and really I think that plays to our employees, how we have a culture of safety, and then really just a professionalism when it comes to their training and knowing their environment and their surrounding. I appreciate Commissioner Harper. He teed us up well talking about GDA and the programs we're working. Forestry received $25 million of that original $100 million that went to GFSIC, and specifically for two programs. One was a fuel mitigation program, or we call it FMIT for short. $22 million, and basically it's an 80-20 cost share rate up to $1,000 per acre. You can do the math. That doesn't go real far for the landowners. We have allocated every dime and started projects, roughly paid out $128,000 today, but that's just slow work. It's quite simply put, there's not enough contractors to go around to clean it all up in one day. So that's why GDA having the funds is really important to us, so that we can continue to accomplish this work and move it along methodically. The $3 million of it went to forest fire breaks and roads, so a program that we can directly control. Landowners just had to sign up. You can see 1,700 applications total, little over 850 approved. We are seeking funding wherever we can to continue to do the rest, and as we find efficiencies, we'll continue to open some up. But I'll tell you, it's pretty slow going, and some of that heaviest hit timber, it's about a mile or 1 hour to do a mile as far as opening up the fire breaks. And we can't just bring tractors from all over the state. It takes a large tractor to do so. So I can't move fleets of tractors from North Georgia. Quite honestly, they're just not big enough to do the work. So all that's in preparation for kind of what we know is to come. There's only been a few hurricanes like Helene that affects timber, and we can go back to Hugo, Michael, in between Katrina up through Mississippi, and even Ivan kind of up through parts of Mississippi and Alabama. And when it affects timber that way, it pretty much plays out the same way every time. So now we have all this sunlight hitting the forest floor that wasn't hitting it before. So we have grasses and shrubs and all that stuff in South Georgia that burns like it has kerosene in it, that's starting to grow and grow at an exponential rate. So next year we'll be running fire with barricades in the way. When you take all that saw timber that's on the ground, you just can't push through it quick enough. Some real world numbers that we're seeing right now, if the fire has no wind in it and it's just barely moving, an acre to 2 acres, normally would take us 30 minutes, and now it's 4 to 5 hours to get around. So our equipment has to change and our tactics have to change. What's going to play out beyond that is the large pines will start to dry out. They will become receptive to fuel. And then in about 4 to 5 years, the bottoms that we know took a beating from the storm, those will dry out. And if we have any kind of drought, that's where we will start to see catastrophic wildfires throughout the Southeast. And we know that. I'm a big believer in learning from history. The Chipola Complex fires was right after Michael, right outside of Panama City. And I can tell you from experience, we're evacuating homes, neighborhoods. The swamps are burning. If you look at that helicopter, and that's a Chinook, so that kind of gives you an idea to the scale of this thing. And really, you're just praying for a change in weather, because at that point you're steering it, you're not really going to stop it. So that's where playing offense that we can do right now when we're not having these fire conditions and before these fuels dry out plays a huge role into whether we are successful or not in 3 to 4 years. Thought this would be a good video to share. Some don't get the experience of sitting in a tractor seat, so we had a drone synced up live with a GoPro inside the tractor to take a look at, what the guys and girls of the Georgia Forestry Commission are pushing and looking at. Just a few trees down, and you can see it's pretty slow going. Now imagine, half of that lines are on fire, or even worse, it's all on fire, and you're trying to push your way out. So really the size of the equipment, the quality of the equipment, what we have just plays a huge role into safety of our people, but also the safety of the public. In the AFY budget, let's see, 371.21, and 371.22 in the governor's budget.
That's
That's
on the capital.
on the capital, yes, sir. Thank you. That is where we're asking for your support there. 10.989 million for tractors. Those will have to go to large tractors, and my commitment to this committee is they will go from Valdosta to Augusta in that impact area. Like I said, there's really no other option. That will be needed. The other one is for a new helicopter. It will be in addition to fleet, so it won't take the place of our smaller helicopter. But the way I kind of framed it up to everybody, that if you don't live in the aviation world, I have a 25-year-old Ford Ranger right now for a helicopter. It lasts. It's a good helicopter, but it doesn't do a whole lot of work. I'm looking for a stripped-down F-250 that can do some work. I need water carrying capacity, and that really plays an important role when we start running those light, flashy fuel fires. And we can't bust through the pines quick enough. We'll need something to knock it down, to catch it. And having that type of capability really becomes vital to the safety of the firefighters, but also to the safety of the public. And with that, I will stop. I'm happy for any questions.
Does the 4.8 million for the helicopter, does that include your attachments, your bucket and all that?
Yes, sir. It includes buckets and a belly tank. So depending on what type of suppression action we need to take, a bucket would carry roughly 300 gallons, 350 to 360 gallons with a belly tank. There's good and bads to both of it, but it would give us the tools we need for fire suppression.
Okay. Chairman Goodman.
I just want to thank you for your agency and for what you do.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you, where you live down where I live at, the Georgia Forestry Commission is the last line of defense for those of us that live out in the woods. I'm telling you, y'all are heroes. I've seen it myself countless times. Boogaboo fire back in 2007, y'all. You're standing on a dirt road, and the fire's creating its own wind, and it's the dirt from the dirt road's hitting your face like a sandblaster, and the fire's spotting 3 miles ahead, and these guys are out there fighting it, and y'all really do yeoman's work. Quick question, if we need to talk about it offline, we can, but I've always been a big advocate for our folks at the Forestry Commission to be able to participate in the state firefighters' pension.
Yes, sir.
If anybody that doesn't think that y'all are firefighters doesn't understand what you do. Is that something you want to talk about now, or is that something you'd like to talk about offline? But I mean, I'm very interested in trying to. I think it would help you with retention, and I think it would be good for your agency and good for the forestry industry and good for rural Georgia.
No, I mean, I want to thank you for your support, and you're correct. A lot of times they, they're not on the pavement where the cameras get, so they don't get the recognition they deserve, and that's kind of a personal mission of mine to change that perception. But they absolutely do fight a lot of wildfire, and I would be happy to have that conversation. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. I can't pass up the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you, you and your crews and the Georgia Forestry Commission. You were partners with us in Helene. I saw you day after day after day, cleaning roads and roadways in my district, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Chairman Anderson, and then Chairman Gann.
I want to echo what they're saying. In my area, we got hit pretty hard, and y'all was one of the first ones on the site. I want to thank your department tremendously.
Thank you, sir.
My question is on the replacement of tractors. How many would that be?
For those larger tractors, somewhere around 26, 27. We're talking, if you're a tractor guy, we're talking John Deere 700, 750s, Cat, like high track D5. So they're roughly 400,000 a piece. So we squeezed it as far as we could, but we're going to get what we need.
Would this be additional equipment, or is this you're going to replace some of the older ones?
They would replace the older open cab tractors and give our firefighters a controlled environment. So a difference between a wildland fire and a structure fire, and I grew up in a structure house, so a great appreciation for what they do. Their suits are made to go in intense heat for no more than 2 hours, and they have SCBA, so they breathe clean oxygen. that they just have different protective measures. A wildland firefighter has to be able to go for 16 hours. So our suits are thinner, more mobility. You're not going to get an oxygen mask to go for 16 hours, right? So you don't see wildland firefighters anywhere in the nation that has such a thing. So our clean air is the tractors. A lot of them are double filtration with carbon filters, and that gives us clean, breathable air, you know, to do the job. So really, these environmental cab tractors are pretty crucial to our health and well-being.
And one last question on the helicopter. Are they already in stock, or is that something you're gonna have to order and then wait for a good little while before you get it?
So when we called around to kind of get some pricing, we were told about 6 months, and actually our last tractors that we ordered were about 6 months too, which is quicker than I expected, to be honest with you. So yeah, I can't go pick one off the lot, but it won't be years either.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, again?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've been around long enough to know we replaced a bunch of old case machines that, as you remember, had a lot of difficulties. And we went different brand, different machines. I'm curious, are we, on everything that we're ordering, are we ordering cab machines on all the different sizes?
Yes, sir. Yeah, if we're buying a new tractor, it's an enclosed cab, environmental cab tractor. We still have some cases. Some of them guys up in the mountains love them, and I appreciate what they do. I'm not brave enough to drive a tractor off the side of a mountain like they do. To be honest with you, I'm more comfortable in the swamp. But in the swamp, we found that some of the John Deeres and some of the Caterpillar tractors work better. So we go with what we know, and then our fleet manager works well with partners, other federal agencies, other states. If somebody else has already tested it out, we'll go visit them and see what they've learned.
Just want to make sure that we're spending our money correctly.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Yes, sir. Thank
Great
you.
job.
I appreciate y'all, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say I should have, from the beginning. Y'all gave me a lot of thanks, but I'll tell you, all the state agencies in this one thing I really enjoyed about this job are there's no egos from DNR, Commissioner Harper, DOT. It is, truly everybody has a servant's heart and wants to do the right thing, and I'm thankful to be a part of this team. So, thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, Department of Natural Resources. Hey, Commissioner.
How are you, Mr. Chairman?
I'm good.
Thank you for having us here this afternoon. It's always a joy to be in front of each of you. Before I get into my very short non-PowerPoint presentation, I've got a couple of people that I wanted to recognize with me today. I have one of our deputy commissioners with us, Thomas Bernard. I've got our Chief of Staff, Ms. Taylor Fisher, with us as well in the audience. And then beside me, I've got our Director of our Budget, and that's Ms. Bonetta Pryor with me today.
Good to have you on.
Let me begin by saying how thankful we are to the Governor and Director Dunn with OPB for the ongoing support and the recommendations in this amended budget, as well as the FY26 budget that we'll talk about at a later time. Again, so thankful for this committee and the support that you've always shown to our department. It's very much appreciated. Let's see. You'll see several budget items listed under the Department of Natural Resources. On page 16, line 239.1, there's an increase in funds for the Stone Mountain Memorial Association. That's in the sum of $1.5 million. And we have Mr. Bill Stevens here with us from that association, should you have any questions about that line item. There were also two house additions, lines 239.2 and 239.3, increased funds for outdoor recreation and historic preservation. And then if you'll flip to page 18, line 241.1, the House added $200,000 for processing venison donations, and that is in support of our Hunters for the Hungry program. We have several capital projects from the Governor's recommendations in the amended budget that I'll discuss with you briefly today. The first is on line 371.24, and that is $5.6 million to purchase a replacement ferry at Sapelo Island. We currently operate that ferry about 4 times a day that runs from Darien to Sapelo Island. It's crucial transportation for those island residents and our staff, as it's the only available public option for people to go from the island to the mainland. That funding would allow us to replace our 31-year-old ferry, the Anne Marie, and then we would maintain the Katie Underwood as a secondary or a backup ferry should the ferry go down. On line 371.23, the second item provides $11.5 million to the North Georgia Mountains Authority. This would be for major renovations and improvements at Brasstown Valley Resort and Amicalola Falls State Park and Lodge. The last time renovations were completed at Brasstown was 8 years ago, and at Amicalola, it was last renovated about 10 years ago. Many of you are very familiar, but the industry standards for hotel and resort renovations are somewhere between 8 and 10 years, which is where we find ourselves now. Both of these properties would undergo a full renovation of guest rooms, the lobby, the conference facilities, and dining areas. And then lastly, on 371.37, there's a house addition to our capital projects for $1 million for facility major improvements and renovations statewide. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that would conclude our amended budget for FY25.
All right, Commissioner, thank you. Questions from the committee? Folks are getting tired, I guess.
Well, we were hoping that you would deduct for those that went over their time and then maybe give it to those of us that went under our allotted time, so.
Unfortunately, I do have some questions.
Okay.
So, line 239.2. Increase funds for outdoor recreation. I'm for outdoor recreation, that's for sure. $5,875,000. What is that specifically for?
We have not been told yet, so as of now, it's a pass-through.
So it's hard for us to support something we don't know what the heck it is.
Yes, sir, I can understand that.
239.3, increase funds for historic preservation, which I'm all for that. I just would like to know what that is specifically.
We can certainly see if we can find out some details on that.
Otherwise, we can't support it if we don't know what it is.
I will get some information and try to follow up back with you.
Line 241.1. Since we're talking about deer, we got the wasting, what is it called?
Chronic wasting disease.
Chronic wasting disease.
Yes, sir.
What efforts are being made to address that? I know there's, I've seen some notices. I own a hunting license, or I have a hunting license, so I'm assuming that's why I'm getting emails about what to do if you notice this in your area and who to report it to, and don't move carcasses.
The long story short is at the end of November, a hunter harvested deer tested positive for chronic wasting disease, CWD. We got that positive confirmation 3 weeks ago from the national lab in Iowa. So at this time, we've drawn, there's what we call a hot zone. We've drawn a 1 mile radius from where that deer was harvested on the Berrien-Lanier County line. We're taking samples using landowners and hunters to help us take those samples. We're not coming in to a property as the department and harvesting a bunch of deer. We're using the people that are familiar with that property. At this time, I think we've tested close to 30 additional deer in that area, and knocking on some wood, at this time we have not received another positive confirmation. We're doing a lot of town hall meetings, in that area of the state, educating people on what CWD is, and we're constantly patrolling for roadkills to take those lymph nodes so that we can test those deer as well. We're going to be working with the people with crop depredation permits in that area. As people start putting crops in the ground, start to grow crops, we're those people that harvest those deer, particularly in that 1 and 5 mile radius to where the deer was taken. We're going to be increasing our samples significantly. What I can say, what I'm very proud of the agency and the team at WRD, Wildlife Resources Division, that I'm so proud of is the fact that we found the disease. The system that we've had in place since 2002 worked. Since 2002, we've been testing around 1,800 deer a year, and the routine sampling is what detected this disease at this time, this one deer in our state. So we're on top of it. We're trying it this time. The investigation is still ongoing to determine the prevalence rate, how far it has gotten, and then what % of our deer herd it's in.
Okay, thank you. On the capital budget request, the ferry is a people ferry, correct?
That's correct.
How do you get vehicles or heavy equipment or that kind of stuff?
We contract for barge runs.
Okay. And on 371.37, would like some additional details on that.
Yes, sir.
And these are all things that you didn't put in there, so I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I don't know who else to ask. We've asked our counterparts, and we just need more information.
Yes, sir. I understand.
I don't want the audience to think you're not being cooperative, because you certainly have.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, how long have you been commissioner now?
A little over a year and a half.
A little over a year. I've been representing the 8th District now in my 5th year, right? How long is CWD? When it was first detected in the United States? 1967?
1967.
I wonder what it says about you and I, that for all 50-something years, it wasn't in the state, and then you become commissioner and I become senator, and it's found in my district.
Well, what I left out is it was a 2.5-year-old deer, so that was when Commissioner Williams was in seat.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And to your whole team, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to the Board of Regents, USG. Anybody from the Ag Experiment Station have anything they want to present? Dean Place, come on up. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you for the opportunity. Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman, and it's good to see you all. Lots of friends here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about your College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. So I've been asked to give just a few updates of some things that are going on, and there's one line item that I want to talk about, and then I want to come back and talk about that handout that I provided to you. So first of all, thank you for this time. Thank you for the support. It really means a lot. And I think many of you know that when I was hired just over 4 years ago, there was a expectation that we make this college the #1 college of agriculture and environmental sciences in the country. And we're moving well in that direction. We're committed to that. And I think the support that we have from you all really does help us move in that direction. I want to talk about some of the things that are that we're working on to help move in that area. So our student impact is going very well. Currently, We have about 1,500 undergraduate students and over 750 graduate students in our college, which has been an increase over the last 4 years. Of that number, the college added 284 first-year students, 123 transfer students, and then also 207 graduate students. And we do feel that the transfer student option is a really good opportunity for us to grow. Our goal is to go to 2,000 undergraduates and 1,000 grad students over probably the next 4 to 5 years. We're seeing a lot of growth and engagement in pre-health majors, including majors that prepare students for medical school, physical therapy programs, physician assistant programs, and other healthcare fields, including pre-vet. And that's also an area that we focus in on. In the area of academics, we really hone in on improving student recruitment, enhancing student experiences, supporting our faculty and staff, and aiding student placement in careers. And we're looking to ramp up our connection with industry to provide a lot more opportunities for students to get into practicums and internships and things such as that. I want to mention a word about cooperative extension, and that certainly is a strong component of our college. I would say that our cooperative extension program is probably one of the best in the country. We really pride ourselves on face-to-face contacts, which we've had about 1.8 million of those over this past year. And they include things such as consultations in ag and natural resources with farmers and producers, serve-safe trainings that are administered to Georgia citizens, and also engagement with young people through Georgia 4-H. In Georgia 4-H, our participation has increased by 11.5% in this past year, and we have statewide participation just about 194,000 now. And so we've been working on building that number up after COVID, which we got down to probably about 65,000. And our goal is to get that back up over 200,000 to 250,000 and eventually 300,000 over the next 3 to 4 years. I also would want to point out that in a national study, 89% of Georgia 4-Hers who responded reported that 4-H was influential in the readiness for work and career. And as a 4-H alum, I can certainly attest to that as well. The last thing I want to say about extension, and you've heard from a number of other speakers this afternoon about the work that has been done with Hurricane Helene and damage assessment. I would say that our extension agents and specialists were really out there on the ground early on, working with producers, working with families, gathering information. The partnership and collaboration we had with the Department of Agriculture, with the Forestry Commission, and with actually many of you as well, was really beneficial. I would also point out we had a very good connection with Warnell School of Forestry and looking at forest resources. So I want to recognize that was very good partnership, and Johnny Sabo mentioned that in his talk. In research, our research funding continues to be strong. Our expenditures are about $66 million, and awards that we have are over $77 million. And for total funding that we have currently is about $65 million. And I think part of our success with is the $4.5 million that we bring in from Georgia commodity groups, blueberries, cotton, peanuts, and a whole host of others. There are several areas of high importance to our teaching, research, and extension program, including the Hospitality Food Industry Management Program, Integrated Precision Agriculture, Controlled Environment Agriculture, Regenerative Biosciences, and Synthetic Biology. I want to mention just real quickly about each of those. So with our Hospitality Food Industry Management Program, that is housed within our Department of Agriculture and Applied Economics. And this is an area where we're seeing tremendous opportunity for growth. We started that program back in 2019. Already we are over 108 students with a plan to take that to about 200 to 250. And there's a number of hospitality companies that are very supportive of that. I would point out that, yes, we are the research and development arm for the #1 industry in the state, agriculture, but then also for the #2 industry in the state, which is hospitality. Related to integrated precision agriculture, or IPA as we call it, this has also been an area of high emphasis for us. We created the Institute for Integrative Precision Agriculture back in the spring of '22. Already we have 76 faculty from across the university that is part of that, across multiple colleges and schools. And of those 76, 45 are in our college. And we're working right now to have a precision agriculture conference that we'll be doing on May 1st down in Perry. Speaking of Perry, you're probably familiar with what we're doing with our University of Georgia Grand Farm, which that is up and running now, and you all have been very supportive of that. And we are now putting in irrigation, pivot irrigation, as well as linear irrigation in wells. And we are planning on May 2nd to have a groundbreaking, and would love to see many of you there. One of the things I would also point out with that is we are looking to have very good, strong partnerships with companies and corporations, big ones like John Deere, AGCO, Microsoft, mid-sized companies, as well as small startups that want to show off the latest and greatest in ag innovation and ag technology. I would also point out that we have a very strong connection with the Georgia Fair Authority, who you heard from Stephen just a little bit ago. So that is a really good collaboration effort we have. Another area is in controlled environment agriculture, so that's high-end greenhouses, vertical greenhouse production. Because of y'all's support, we've been able to hire 5 faculty over the last 2 years to focus in on that effort. Atlanta area, metro area, is actually a growth area when it comes to controlled environment ag, so we are working with a number of those companies and also training students to move into that space to be managers and growers and others related to controlled environment agriculture. Some of you also are familiar with our regenerative biosciences program, and these are faculty with our animal dairy sciences that are making that connection of animal sciences and human health, and they're working on things like heart disease, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, traumatic brain injury, and stroke. And through this regenerative bioscience center, we are coming up with therapeutics that show very good promise for addressing those diseases, and most recently with stroke. And we've had the FDA give us approval to move one of our therapeutics out into human trials. So yes, we're dealing with traditional agriculture things, but also new cutting edge kind of things such as what we're talking about here. And the last thing I would point out is synthetic biology. And this over this past year, actually in August, we were able to hire Dr. Scott Jackson, who's one of the nation's best plant breeders. We worked with the Georgia Research Alliance to bring him back as a GRA eminent scholar to lead that area of synthetic biology for that next generation of plant breeding using CRISPR technology, Cas9, and some of those kind of things. Senator Burns, we're going to work on that deer issue that you and I talked about. I was actually mentioning to my faculty this morning about that, so they got that on the list to work on, okay? And so that's all something that we could do within that area of CRISPR-9 and genomics and whatnot. So I'll wrap that up and just say that there's one line item in the FY25 budget that I would mention to you, and that is line 279.1. And what that is, it's for benefits for our UGA Cooperative Extension faculty. This is actually correcting an error that was made last year. And what was put into the budget last year was $900, when in actuality that should have been $468,129. So that is something that's in the governor's budget. So it's in both the amended budget as well as a big budget. And I would really appreciate your help in getting that through. Otherwise, that ends up being a cut to our cooperative extension program. And as of right now, we're not able to fill some positions because we don't have those funds at this point. And before I take questions, I want to point out that this handout that was passed around, you all know that we do the Ag Forecast meeting. And one of the things we do for that is look at farm gate value. And we had our people work on a new methodology for delivering that information. What you have here shows the top 5 crops that we have. But on the backside, if you click on that QR code, that takes you to a really nice innovative website where there's tools for legislators, teachers, and others that they can use in regards to determining more about commodities across the state and even by county. So it's a really good tool, and I'd encourage you to use it. Chairman, with that, I'll take a pause and happy to address any questions y'all may have.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate all the exciting work you're doing with the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences. We're proud with you. I'm happy with your vision for the school and to be the #1 in the nation is your goal, and I certainly am excited about the future. On the true up on the health benefits, is that a catching you all the way back up for the whole year, or is that just the prorated amount to get you through the end of the fiscal year? So in other words, are we going to be looking at a lot bigger number in FY26 than the 468,000, or is that annual figure?
Let's see. So it's actually would be the same number in the ongoing big budget as it is right now. So it's going to basically catch us up and carry us forward. But I think when we come back and talk about the big budget down the road, we can talk more about that too.
All right, Senator Sims, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. It probably isn't related to anything that the dean has spoken about, but I am a graduate of Fort Valley State University,
I know.
which is a land-grant institution, which with ag implications, okay? They're nowhere, do they have any connections with you guys? Do they do anything in conjunction with the university?
Yeah, so there's, Senator, there's a number of areas where we work with them. One being educational programs with small farmers, small ruminants with sheep and goats. We also are working with them on some federal funding that we got related to the poultry science building. You all know that we've opened that here a while ago. We got federal funding, that about $2 million. And then also there was $2 million in that federal funding that goes to Fort Valley. The intention of that is to work with them in their poultry, students who are interested in poultry sciences, they could start at Fort Valley and then also have connections with our poultry science department. So there's a few examples.
You know, they've been in the sheep and the goat business since I was a freshman there, and I'm not gonna even tell you how long ago. Do they do anything else? Do we need to have them come and tell us exactly what they are doing or are not doing? I mean, it's just, maybe I should ask Mr. Chairman that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like it's a waste. I mean, there's so much potential in the school, but just seems to be nothing happening.
Certainly, I would welcome to hear from them, Senator.
Thank you.
We can, and we may want to, we could have them when we have this again for the big budget, or you may want to talk to Chairman Goodman to see if he wants to have them come make a presentation. I'd be interested to hear what their initiatives are. It's my neighbor, as you know. I mean, I'm right down the road. But thank you, Dean.
All good? All right.
Oh, sorry.
Just real quick.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited to hear about the Ag Research Forum.
Yep.
The new ability that the UGA will have to conduct some additional ag research. And you mentioned the fact that you're installing irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
We're not very efficient in America with the use of irrigation. And the fact that we're now seeing in my area of the state some real serious water concerns where we don't have enough water for ag and industry and residential needs. So we always used to think that was something out west, something that the western states had to deal with, but the reality is it's here. And what I'd ask that you do, perhaps a little bit like with my feral deer pitches, is give some consideration to how we can do precision irrigation and get a much higher utilization for the water resource that we enjoy. I'd appreciate just your consideration in that area. You may already have something.
I would love to talk about that. So many of you are aware of our stripling irrigation center that we have right now. They've been working on that some time. However, with this precision agriculture effort that we have, we've really been able to ramp that up in looking at precision irrigation on crops, when they need it and where they need it, time of day, looking to get controllers on pivot irrigation so they're not spraying out into roads and all of those kind of things. So there are a lot of the new technologies that we are working on right now, and we'll also be demonstrating a number of those at our UGA Grand Farm in Perry. So be expecting to see more and more of that coming down the road. And I think there's also new technologies where we're able to put water like underneath seed beds and things like that to help cut down on evaporation and have more efficient use of water.
Absolutely, and I would say, Mr. Chairman, 20 years ago in Israel, they were so far ahead of us in their utilization of water. And we've kind of tended to think that it's a plentiful, inexhaustible resource. And now we recognize that that may not be the case.
That's a great point, yes.
Good point. I think I've heard talk of even the plants having sensors embedded in them somehow, and that the irrigation can read that and know how much water they need. Okay,
right.
Thank you, Dean. So I made a mistake and accidentally skipped over ag education. I guess it's my bifocal contacts messed me up, so I'll drop back to them. And then Dean Nolan, I guess your school's starting with a V and my name's starting with a W. Seems like we're always last if you go alphabetically, but we'll look to hear from you next. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for having us here today. It's been about a year since John and I have been here. I guess fortunately we don't have anything in the amended budget, so trying to bring you up from what's happened since last March. This morning when we were at the Farm Bureau meeting, Senator Goodman, I don't know if you were there, but President McCall talked about all the checks that they were going to give out. They were hand delivering. Well, I got to thinking, all of you guys should have received about a week ago from the U.S. Mail a flyer from Ben Lastly, and if you haven't, I'll make sure you get those. But it kind of highlight the accomplishments that Georgia Ag Education had last year. One of those from the National FFA Convention back in October was we had a national officer elected, national vice president. His name is Jack Lingerfelder from Coffee County. We also had the American Star Farmer, and if I can phrase that for you, kind of like they were using the Heisman Trophy and all that. In this country, only about less than 0.5% of all FFA members, of the million FFA members out there, will ever receive the American FFA degree. It usually takes about 2 to 3 years after high school to get it. There are 4-star degrees, and to us, the ultimate star degree is the American Star Farmer. And we had a winner this year from Tattnall County, and that was Paul Oliver. What made it so special was in 1988, the last American Star Farmer we had was his daddy, Clint. So I've known Clint. I went to school in Bryan County, and we showed hogs and everything together. So it's really special to see Clint having won that in 1988, and then his son winning it this past year. We did have 172 American degree recipients in Indianapolis, and we had numerous proficiency and CDE winners. All in all, we were number 2 in the nation with the number of winners that we had from the Georgia FFA Association. To try to catch you up to this year, currently we have 402 ag ed programs across the state. I counted them up this morning. We have 7 counties in in this state that does not have any type of agricultural education. One of them we hope to change this year in Wilkinson County. Folks are talking to the folks there, and we're thinking we're going to get one at least in the middle school to begin the ag program there. As of today, we have 64 elementary ag programs in the state, 57 young farmer teachers, 620 ag ed teachers across the state. Last year, we finished with 83,000 FFA members. Currently, as of today, we have 60,000 FFA members, so we're on track to beat our record. We've had a continuous increase in the number of FFA members for the last 23 years. The only time we did not have an increase was during the year of COVID, but every other year we've pretty well surpassed our numbers from the previous years. So that's kind of our report up until this point. Any questions that you guys may have, be willing to try to answer, and thank you for letting us be here.
Thank you, Billy. Questions from the committee?
Could you give us the counties that does not have ag?
Yes, sir. Wilkinson County, Fayette County, Coweta, Chattahoochee, Stewart, Quitman, and Daughtry. Those were the 7.
All right, one other quick. Do you do anything with 4-H?
Sure. Yeah, we
I mean, do you?
livestock shows. Melanie and I are in regular communications.
Saying FFA, but I mean, do you have any records? How many children you have had help in 4-H?
So that's under.
No, I don't have any records for you.
But I didn't know whether you reached across the line to help them also.
Help them in what way?
Just like you help with FFA.
Yes, well, as far as 4-H goes, we work together at the livestock shows down in Perry any other time, so we do collaborate. UGA runs the 4-H program in the state, and FFA is run through the Georgia Department of Education. So I come from the Georgia Department of Education. I said ag ed program, Georgia agricultural education programs.
Thank you, Billy. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, let's hear from our vet school. Thank you for your patience, Dr. Nolan. Somebody has to go last. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Well, there.
But you're first in our heart.
There you go. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. It's great to be here, and we really appreciate the opportunity to speak with us. It's about line 295.1 and 296.1. First and foremost, we want to thank you for the appropriation to help offset the cost of benefits for our soft money funded employees. When cost of living adjustments or COLAs are approved by the state, we receive support for our state funded employees, but we self-fund the raises and benefits for almost 700 employees who are on soft money, most of whom are in the hospital or in our diagnostic labs. Thus, any state support for these COLAs helps offset price increases that we use for our services to pay for them. So this offset really helps, I think, a lot of people. So thank you again for your continued support. Now, speaking of support, I'll take just a few moments of your time, I hope, to give you a brief summary of what we've been doing in the state. The first is high path avian influenza. You've heard a lot about it today. We've been working on it for years, preparing for it, with resources and expertise across the entire college. We really work with different agencies and taking an interdisciplinary approach to tackling it. Because of its importance in wildfowl, our Southeastern Cooperative Wildlife Disease Study, also known as SQUIDUS, has been at the forefront of tracking wildlife and surveilling wildlife. They help federal and state agencies with it and help look at the interconnectedness with livestock and human health. The efforts they make in tracing it to its source is a big deal in understanding how to combat it. Also, Mark Tompkins, he's the director for our Center for Vaccines and Immunology. He's leading UGA's partnership with the FDA to test dairy supplies in the U.S. for avian influenza. We're one of only 5 institutions nationwide doing this with the aim of reducing the threat of avian influenza to both humans and animals. In addition to testing the dairy cattle herds, our VDLs in Athens and Tifton are responsible for testing backyard poultry suspected to be infected with high-path avian influenza, and that's essential to trying to control the spread of the virus. Another animal health concern you've heard about today has recently emerged in Georgia, and unfortunately it's chronic wasting disease. That diagnosis was made in our Athens diagnostic lab, and our SQUIDUS lab monitors for chronic wasting disease in deer populations across the southeast, working with Georgia's DNR to provide testing, surveillance, and management strategies for the affected areas. And last but not least, we continue to work towards solutions on the rural shortage of food animal veterinarians that's significantly impacted livestock producers in rural Georgia. Though there's no easy solution that anybody's found across the country, we've really stepped up our efforts to mentor and train future veterinarians that want to work in rural areas. Some of these efforts include partnering with the folks in the UGA's Archway Partnership to place third-year veterinary students in clinics in rural areas so they get a real sense of what it's like, get comfortable living in a rural area. They take them and meet the townspeople and the leaders of the town, and so really become integrated. So we're very hopeful about this program. We've also worked with President Moorhead to build a scholarship fund for rural Georgians who want to practice food animal medicine. And we're advocating alongside the GVMA to improve the veterinary loan repayment program for graduates going into large or mixed animal practice in rural areas. Finally, we've worked with Dean Place and the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences to double the number of students in our food animal VIP program. That's a streamlined entry program into vet school, and with the hope of identifying people typically that come from rural areas that want to go back to rural areas and practice. So that's what I have for you today. I realized I didn't introduce my sidekick here, Rob Clark. He's the CFO of the college and our nuclear sub officer, former. We're proud to have him.
That was a different life, but glad to be at the College of Vet Med.
He's been a great addition to the college. So, glad to answer any questions. I will say we work with Fort Valley to educate their veterinary technician students to provide them their clinical education. So we're really proud of that program.
I want to recommend to the committee members, anybody that's interested, I feel like the dean would welcome you. Tour their hospital in Athens. It's state of the art. It's super impressive, a lot of fun, and visit with her about. They have a lab in Tifton also. Urgent. I think it's urgent care. What's your facility in Tifton?
Well, you guys helped fund it a few years ago, and it's a haul-in facility for large animals. And
so it's kind of urgent care for large animals.
You betcha.
And the other thing, I've been pushing her hard, challenging her on the large animal or the food animal vets that we have a dire need for, and vets in rural Georgia. And she, of course, was way ahead of me on all this, and they already have a lot of initiatives to. She mentioned the VIP program, but I mean they give. I don't want to speak out of turn, but it sounded like to me they give preference to ABAC transfers that want to practice in the food animal vet area because they're from, typically ABAC students a lot of times are from rural areas, and so they have and then there's some, I think there's maybe some waiting a little bit for rural counties possibly, and I can't remember, but they had a number of measures they're trying to implement or have implemented to try to supply the workforce need that we have, and then also, as she mentioned, increasing their enrollment in and of itself ought to, the rising tide lifts all ships. So hopefully that'll help us too. But she's keenly aware of that problem, and but I encourage you all to. If you get a chance, it's a really cool field trip to make.
Thank you, Senator.
And we do have a question.
A quick question. First, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
All the
It's an
veterinarians
honor.
you can produce, we need. You know that.
Yes, sir.
Break down for me your student population and how many are in small animal versus large animal, and then break down large animal into food veterinarian, food-directed veterinary medicine versus maybe equine or some other alternative. Can you give me any ideas on that?
We came equipped. Oops.
I knew you would. It was a leading question. But so
Thank you for the setup.
So the trick is, how many in each category are we working to provide? And I think they even have a graphic representation.
Well, the best predictor of where somebody will practice is where they grew up. And so if we want to get rural veterinarians, we need to get rural veterinary students into vet school. And so we do weight it to try to give them an extra leg up. We have a lot of outreach programs, some through Tifton, some at the College of Vet Med in Athens, to hit these kids when they're young. Because the average veterinarian, get this, decides they want to be a vet at 9 years old. I'd never met a vet before when I was 9 years old. But that's what we're dealing with. So we have to get in early and let them know what a great career it is. We also, of course, there's the money issue. But believe it or not, the chief, and I say that because our students are right now are going out making more than our faculty. I would never have believed that. But it's a weird time in veterinary medicine because of the pandemic. So food animal, typically they make less money. They're in rural areas. These are young people. But you know what they tell us is the biggest roadblock. It's mentorship, having somebody to collaborate, work with. So we'll be back to talk to you about that. I think we have, for the big budget, I think we have a plan to help with that. So we're swinging.
So I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If there are any young single males watching this live stream, you should go hang out at the vet school. Because it's shocked me how many of their students are, what a large percentage now are females in the vet school.
It's amazing.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing at all, but we do need some large animal vets, and a lot of times that's males, I guess, that do that. But anyway, I'm treading on thin ice here, so I better shut up.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. All right, I haven't adjourned yet. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's my honor.
Good
Thank
meeting,
you.
and I want to ask, seriously, committee members, we're going to probably do the readout on the amended budget Monday, and so you need to get your input to me pretty quick, because I'll be meeting on this Monday. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.